How long has it been since Bowers & Wilkins released the PX8?
It's been 84 years.
Okay, you know I'm joking, it's been around 3 years. But now the brand new Bowers & Wilkins ANC Champ is here. And I might as well rip the band-aid off real quick. The recommended retail price on this on day one is going to be £629, making these £230 more expensive than the recently released and award-winning PX7 S3. So I'm sure you've got questions like, why are these so expensive? What do they do differently compared to the Bowers & Wilkins PX7 S3? Should you save the money and just go for the PX7s, or are the PX8 S2 the new pound for pound champ when it comes to over-ear noise cancelling cans? Well, that is exactly what you're about to find out. So you could easily mistake the PX8s for the PX7s, as they both share that iconic Bowers & Wilkins design. But there are some significant differences when it comes to materials used, starting with the backs of the ear cups. Both have aluminium housing with chamfered cut edges that catch the light just like a piece of David Beckham's bling. One subtle difference here is that the Bowers & Wilkins logo on the PX7 is kind of lightly etched into the surface. In contrast, the logo on the PX8 is actually raised up and embossed, and this catches the light even more, and I'm pretty sure Beckham would approve. Here's a material upgrade. The PX7 has this woven material right around the edge of the ear cup, and the same materials used across the top of the headband. And it's a nice choice because it's hard wearing and it will never show any fingerprints, which is nice. But on the Bowers & Wilkins PX8 S2, they've actually used genuine Napa leather in place of the woven fabric. And this wraps right across the top of the headband. And in fact, it's used on all of the primary surfaces here, including the ear cups and the padding on the headband. And on the PX7, these areas that look like leather are actually PU leather. And here's a little bit of useful information. If you do get either one of these headphones, the headband padding and the ear cups are replaceable by an expert. So you do need to send it into Bowers to have it done. But it's good that it can be done. So this choice to use more premium materials here obviously contributes to that higher price tag, but that's not the only reason why these are more expensive. So when you turn the PX8 sideways, if you do happen to be familiar with the previous PX8s, you will notice that they're actually a bit slimmer now in profile. But anyway, you'll also notice in comparison to the PX7s, there is a visible difference here to that vented area. And this runs right around the outsides of the ear cups. The PX7 features a plastic vent, which does look really nice. And behind this mesh are actually 6 of the noise cancelling mics, and there are 8 in total. The extra 2 there are for voice pickup. Now, in comparison, the PX8 features a more premium metal mesh, which in my opinion looks nicer and enhances that luxurious finish. Hidden behind here are the same 6 ANC mics. And again, there's a total of 8. Now you might automatically assume that the voice pickup, the noise cancelling, the pass-through would be identical on these two since they have the same amount of mics and probably the exact same mics. Well, you would be
wrong.
And don't worry, I will explain why that is. But before we do that, let's carry on looking at the designs because there are a few more differences that you need to know about. The hanger is entirely different. So the PX7 has this really nice contoured metal hanger and it looks slick, it looks stylish. And the way the light kind of just rolls off it, yeah, it's nice. Now the PX8 S2 on the other hand, at least when it comes to this particular colorway, the Onyx Black, the aluminium hanger is actually a bit more glossy. And you probably noticed this already, but it's got this nicely exposed area that shows some of the braided cabling. It's just a really nice detail that adds to that overall premium look. And when you do try on the PX7s, they are super comfy. The passive noise cancellation is absolutely fantastic. But when you switch to the PX8s, there's a couple of things you will notice. They instantly feel a bit more rigid, a bit more firm, but not uncomfortably so. And actually it feels like they can adapt and adjust to the shape of my head better than the PX7s. And I think it's thanks to this redesigned hinge and actually the overall shape of the hanger itself. Now do keep in mind that both of these headphones are designed to last for a long time. But in my honest opinion, I do believe the PX8s are just gonna do it a little bit better. And there are a couple of other differences. I'm sure you've noticed this one. The metal on the back of the PX7s is that kind of classic steel look. And the metal used here on the PX8 is kind of nickel plated almost. It's got this kind of reddish tone to it. And look how the logo just lights up on the back of that. It really stands out. And there is another little subtle difference that I'm sure a lot of people will miss. Let me show you. The button layout on the PX7 and the PX8 is pretty much identical. You've got your Bluetooth pairing and power button. You've got your ANC button right there. And then on the left ear cup, you've got your volume buttons, plus this little action button for skipping and pausing tracks, which has this kind of ridged texture to it. And in comparison to the PX8, you'll notice you get a slightly upgraded texture. It's more of a diamond cut texture there on that button. I know it's a subtle difference, but yeah, it's a difference nonetheless. Okay, now let's do that mic test that I was talking about. Okay, right now you're hearing the voice call quality on the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3 in a quiet room. How does it sound? I'm going to introduce some noise now. So there's some pretty loud road noise in the background. Can you still hear my voice clearly? And let's take it up a notch and introduce some wind. Okay, so now I've got wind rushing past my left ear, now my right ear, now my left ear. Can you still hear me clearly? And now let's compare this to the Bowers Wilkins PX8 S2. Okay, so now you're hearing the brand new Bowers Wilkins PX8 S2. Do the mic sound better in a quiet environment? Now let's introduce that noise. Do they sound better when it comes to cancelling road noise in the background? And now let's get that wind going. The wind is now rushing past my right ear, now my left ear, now my right ear. Can you still hear me clearly? And more importantly, do they sound better than the Bowers Wilkins PX7? So be honest with me, could you hear a difference when it came to voice pickup? And if you did, in favor of the PX8, that is because this actually has a newer chip from Qualcomm, and it also uses a more upgraded voice pickup algorithm. Anyway, now let's test the noise cancelling abilities on these two headphones. Okay, so right now you're hearing the pass-through mode on the PX7 S3. I'm going to switch it to off so you get the passive cancelling. This is what you will hear without any noise cancelling or pass-through modes on. And now let's switch to noise cancelling. So you can probably barely hear me at all at this point. I'm going to introduce some noise. Okay, so I'm repeating the same test here with the PX8 S2. Does it sound better than the PX7 S3 in pass-through mode? Let me know. Here's the passive noise cancelling. So this is how my voice sounds without any of the ANC or pass-through modes on. And now let's put the noise cancelling on. Can you even hear my voice at this point? And now let's introduce that noise. So that concludes this unscientific ANC test. Okay, now let's talk about what might arguably be the most important factor when it comes to headphones: the sound quality. The PX7s do use a really premium 40mm biocellulose driver, and it's reinforced as well so that it can handle those low bass frequencies and deliver crystal clear highs without any of that extra distortion caused by vibrations around the drivers. However, with the PX8 S2, Bowers Wilkins have taken it up a notch with more premium components, and this is another big factor that contributes to that higher price tag. So the PX8 S2 actually fitted with a 40mm carbon cone driver with a newly designed chassis, voice coil, suspension and magnet. Ultimately, it improves the low-end frequencies, and you can really hear the difference. And most noticeably, in my opinion, it enhances the overall spaciousness in the audio. When I sat down and compared these two for the first time, I noticed that straight away. And I also noticed more details and nuances in the music that I didn't necessarily pick up on when listening to the same track on the PX7s, which, don't get me wrong, still sound amazing. The best way I can explain the difference very simply between these two is I feel like the PX7s are kind of tuned for that more commercial sound, whereas the PX8 S2s kind of have that studio audiophile quality to them. They just sound cleaner and more accurate and more spacious and more bassy, and those are all things that I love when it comes to headphones. Now here are some upgrades that Bowers have made to the PX S2 compared to the S1. The drivers are all new and improved, as I mentioned earlier, but they also have dedicated amps, and Bowers Wilkins have also included a few additional secret weapons to further enhance the audio experience even more. So the discrete DSP is now more premium. The Qualcomm chipset inside is also a newer version. It's all improved, and it improves connectivity, stability, and it opens the door to more possibilities when it comes to wireless connections. The PX8 Series 1 supported Bluetooth 5.1, and now the PX8 S2 has a Bluetooth 5.2 chip. The Series 1 had aptX Adaptive and aptX HD, which is nice, but the PX8 has aptX Adaptive and aptX Lossless for true high-res 24-bit 96 kHz wireless connection. Disclaimer though, that is if your device supports it, and not all devices will, including the iPhone unfortunately, but there are a few solutions to that if you do want to get high-res audio to the PX8. So on top of the wireless 24-bit 96 kHz connection via the Snapdragon sound codecs, aka aptX Lossless, you can either use USB-C to C for high-res audio, so this can be plugged into your laptop straight into the headphones. For example, you've also got USB-C to analog, which is also high-res capable. But there is a fourth method, and actually this might be a fantastic little accessory to get. And I say that because if you do want to use your headphones with a PS4, PS5, a Nintendo Switch, a PC, or a Mac, and get the proper 24-bit 96 kHz lossless signal from those devices to the headphones without the need of the cables, well, this solves that problem. I will link it in the description if you do want to check out the latest deals and prices, and if you want to pick one of these up, use that link and you'll be supporting the channel. Okay, so here's another upgrade that Bowers Wilkins have made since the Series 1 of the PX8. So the original PX8s actually had a 2-band equalizer. It was just bass and treble. However, on the PX8 S2, you do get access to a 5-band EQ, which is really nice if you're the type of person who's into making these kinds of adjustments. And there is one more thing you should know about these headphones. They are Bluetooth LE capable, and that software update is apparently coming soon, as well as a spatial audio update. So hopefully now you know what the extra £230 for the PX8 is for. Now with that said, if the price on the PX8 is a little too high, well then you might want to check out these, the Bowers Wilkins PX7 S3. I have done a full review on these, and I have compared them to some of my other favorite headphones right now. So if you want to check that out, that thumbnail's on screen. Appreciate you guys. If you just subscribed, you're now one of the finest subscribers known to man. See you in the next one. Don't be late.